All right, this one is for those of you who are teachers and are thinking about transitioning to the other side of the desk and becoming a principal. This one is for you. Uh, Here we have a post from Jazz Like Purple 9655 on the teachers subreddit, and it's titled "Ever Think About Becoming a Principal?" I've been going back and forth from the idea of trying to become a principal as I meet the qualifications of my state. However, I think I'll miss teaching too much. Stop right there. I like that. I like that this person um, they understand that you're going to be missing out on something if you leave the classroom, and they think that they're going to miss that. So that tells me that this is a person who's not running from the class, who's not doing it for the wrong reason. That's the way I read that sentence, because you do have teachers who they just can't handle the day-to-day classroom management, and so they'll go and get their master's or doctorate, so and principal certification, so they can run from the classroom, so that they don't have to, because they struggle in the area of classroom management and they just don't want to have to deal with that part of it anymore. Or the other terrible reason to leave the classroom and become a principal is for more money. So this person seems to have a really a good understanding of why they want to become a principal. Um, Goes on, I teach art and history at a high school and I love it. It is a little exhausting to do all the time, though, and tend to think not teaching would be less exhausting. All right. So obviously, person they don't know what they don't know, but definitely being a principal, I mean, it's it's gonna be it's gonna be exhausting, a different kind of exhausting, um, and there's gonna be times when you have to be responsive after hours. I remember one time, this very serious incident we had. There was an issue of a threat to our school community, and we found out about it on around noon on a Sunday, and off and on, like I was responding to emails from my principal. We were looking into things, doing investigations and whatnot on that Sunday, because it was our responsibility to make sure that everybody was safe. So it's a different kind of exhausting. It's a different kind of exhausting. Definitely not less exhausting, and in a lot of times it's going to be more exhausting. Um, so let's read on, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. It's not dealing with the kids that are exhausting. It's the 10-hour a day persona I have to put on 5 days a week, 190 days a year in front of my kids. So I get what this person is saying there. But um, when you have when you're serving as a principal, those days can get even longer than 10 hours, especially if it's your late night to supervise, um, or if this person is working at a high school. You also have those sporting events and other things that as a principal we have to supervise, and and what that does is that pulls you away from family things, especially those of you who have kids. Your spouse is going to have to pick up the slack with a lot of things, and so that I think that can be exhausting. That can be exhausting as well. It's just a different it's just a different kind of exhausting, and they're just the challenges as well to your family calendar. So definitely, I hope this person doesn't feel like they're gonna be less exhausted, because ultimately, as a principal, when you have to make decisions, or your building principal has to make decisions, you have to be the face of that decision, even that that's something that you don't agree with, or if the superintendent is saying this is what we're doing and you don't agree with, you have to be the face of that decision, and that can be exhausting as well. So you're going to be exhausted, is what I'm saying. Goes on to say, I feel like being a principal, that persona doesn't have to be on every hour of the working day. Okay, now we're getting I'm starting to understand more of what the person is saying. It says, I hope that makes sense. So with that, I remember when I was a teacher, I had this gallon jug of water, and I said, "Okay, I'm gonna drink this. I'm gonna drink this," and it was time stamped with different motivational phrases to get me to keep up. You got to keep up with this pace and drink this water. Well, as a teacher, when I tried to do that, it was difficult because as I was drinking water, I had to go to the bathroom. But there were times when I can't go to the bathroom because I got my kids in front of me. I got my class in front of me. I can't leave. And so I think I better understand what this person is saying, because as a principal, it was easier for me to drink that gallon of water because as a principal, you do have pockets of time to yourself, maybe 3, maybe 5 minutes you can just steal to yourself and just relax, recharge, reflect, think about what you got to do, reset, get your mind right. Oftentimes, as a principal, what I would do is I would go in my office, close the door, turn the lights off, and just reset, relax, reflect. That's what I would do. And so as a principal, you do have the opportunity to do that because you don't always have students that you're responsible for teaching and supervising. So I understand what the person is saying there, but it is going to be exhausting. It's going to be very exhausting. Look forward to that. There might be a lot that goes into being a principal that I'm unaware of that will make it equally exhausting, though. I know there's a lot of disciplinary issues that as an assistant principal I will be handling and more dealings with parents. And see that, I mean, you said it right there with the disciplinary issues. Um, and then just the other thing that just really makes it, you have to be flexible, because you can have your schedule set for the day, but there may be something that goes down, a verbal altercation, a physical altercation, and now your schedule, all of that is done for the day. You're having to deal with this thing that just happened. And then also there can be times when there's something that happened off campus, uh, an altercation between students, or something that started with their phone and they're being mean to each other. And now it's affecting school, and you're going to have to deal with it. So there is, and that can be exhausting as well, and that can take up a lot of your time. So that can, let me answer my daughter. There we go. Anyways, where was I? Before my daughter asked if she can go outside to play. Yes, she can. Yeah, so yeah, there's a lot of disciplinary issues and more dealings with parents. And sometimes, and with parents care about their kid, right? They care about their kid. And so sometimes, you're gonna have to be, you're gonna it's gonna take some wisdom and some carefulness when you're working with parents, like all of that. um and sometimes you can't say things. You have to watch how you say things. That's what I want to say. You have to watch how you say things when you're talking to parents, members of the community. And so in terms of that persona, yeah, that's always, it's always there, because you're a reflection of the leadership of the building. So definitely it's exhausting. And certainly the poster here, they understand that they've got blind spots, and there are things that they're not fully considering because you don't know what you don't know. um the other thing here, the assistant principal position is open at my school, not being encouraged to apply. Here, I would caution you on this, on serving as a principal at a school that you previously that you teach at. Like going from one year, I'm teaching in this school, and the next year I'm serving in a leadership position. That's tough, especially if that's your first assistant principal position. That's just really tough to do. It's just tough to do because, people they previously knew you as a shoulder to shoulder colleague. You probably sat at tables or stood in circles with these people and talked about the principal. So it's that's tough. It's and not talked about him in a bad way, but just him or her in a bad way, but just talking about their like what they're doing. Like administration, our building, they don't know what they're doing. Am I right? Yeah. So it's just tough. It's tough, and then you're trying to shift the mindset of your colleagues and have them see you differently. I'm not saying it's possible, but it's just difficult. I saw in my career, I witnessed a principal, a teacher try to do that, and they were also working with their former department. And every time we had a meeting, it was like the department wasn't taking this new assistant principal. They weren't taking him seriously, and I was embarrassed just watching it because that was my first year joining the department, and so I just didn't understand why my colleagues were giving this assistant principal such a hard time, and it was because they knew this guy as a shoulder to shoulder colleague, and of course they had just all these stories, like all these embarrassing stories about this principal, and so it's just hard for them to take him seriously. And eventually, he transferred to another building because of it. All right, I'm thinking about it, but I just have this fear of missing teaching, and again, kudos to this person because they get it, they understand. When you're a teacher, the big thing about that is the relationships. They run deep because you're seeing those students. You're seeing them every day, every other day or so. But as a principal, your relationships are wide. They're wide. You know a lot of kids, but you don't go deep because you don't have that 90 minutes of class with them every other day. So it's different. It's different. And then too, as high school teachers, I think like we love the content because that's our specialty. We love that, especially as a history teacher. What are you talking about? I get it. I was a history teacher, so I love it. The grass might not be greener on the other side. The pay increase would be great though. And again, caution there. You don't want to do this just for the money. The challenges are great. And you want to make sure that your why is in order. You want to make sure that you're doing it for the right reason. All right, let's look at some of the comments here. It's not less exhausting. It's a different exhausting. It is a lot of hours and is a lot of dealing with adults issues on top of student issues. Yes, correct. Absolutely. No, 1,000 times no. If you want to work with kids and teach kids and watch them grow, stay in the classroom. Principals have a lot of meetings, a lot of pressures from higher ups to improve their school's attendance, test data, and more. Yes, that is correct. See here, and some people get stuck as assistant principals, which is just the worst. Just disciplinarians who have to monitor all kids of stuff and who answer to principals. Sounds like a nightmare from what I've seen. You know what? I've seen a teacher who aspired to be an assistant principal. I saw them get stuck in that role. And so they were doing all of the stuff the assistant principals didn't want to do. So that's an interesting observation there. I haven't seen that with my own eyes, but I've seen an aspiring principal get stuck doing a lot of stuff the assistant principals didn't want to do. This person says, I considered it, but then I started meeting principals and realized that these are not my people. So I'm a principal. I'm a nice guy. Being an admin is constantly betraying your students and teachers. You cannot be both a good person and an admin. Whoa! Oh my goodness! Wow, Dazzler Plus. Wow, there's been an experience or two with admin in Dazzler Plus's history. So, yeah, overall, ladies and gentlemen, I say this, you need to count the cost. Count the cost before you make that transition into a principal position. Um, Fully do the research, talk to people, and just really think long and hard about it, because it's different. It's different. But I do think that being a teacher can definitely prepare you very well to be a principal, because what do we say here? That's it. Teachers are leaders. So that's it, for this video. And I thank you so much for tuning in. As always, please don't forget that teachers are leaders.